Hello, my name is Michael Villafranca, and this presentation addresses the experience of first generation college students from Brownsville, Texas, which is my hometown. My goal is really to highlight the specific challenges that they face and the support systems that are there to help first generation college students really succeed. Um, Brownsville, Texas, in my eyes, is very committed to serving its population, and my data provides a vital look into really the realities of this experience. Now, this project does draw exclusively on a survey of 28 first generation college students, some of which happen to be one of my closest friends. And I do this in order to create some actionable recommendations towards the end of this presentation. Now, my research question was, what challenges do first generation students in Brownsville, Texas face when pursuing higher education, and what support is there to help them? Now, the first question on the survey was a scale survey question, and it asked them if they were happy to be a first generation college student. And as you can see, there is a majority of 35.7% choosing that they strongly agree. Second, coming in at 32.1%, which is just agree, right in the middle. And then 28.6% choosing somewhat agree. And we did have one person choose somewhat disagree um, with 3.6% of the total results. Now, the second question was, being a first generation student exposes me to challenges. Now, the numbers I think speak very clearly, with 77.8% of respondents rated their exposure to challenges as a 4 or 5, with 51.9% choosing strongly agree. Now, this dispels any kind of notion that the path that first generation students have is quote unquote easy. And the students really articulate this themselves, this feeling, stating that, being first gen means that they are at this disadvantage and have to work harder towards their own goals. Um, and this is not just an academic challenge, it's a navigational and really emotional burden. Students feel sort of the pressure to be on top of, certain financial issues and certain schoolwork assignments, and really have to adapt quicker to environments than other students do. These are tasks that most non-first generation students have parental guidance for. And understanding this high burden of effort is the core, really the foundation of providing meaningful support for these students. Now, the first multiple choice question was, what is the best thing about being a first generation student? And I asked students to identify the best things about their status. I gave them the multiple choices of the community of first generation students, scholarships, support systems, and prideful sense of being a first generation student. Um, the scholarships for first generation students and the support systems for first generation students, both at 28.6%, which is a clear mandate. Financial assistance and structured support systems, that they are the most valued resources. Third place coming in at 17.9%, the community of first generation students. This really still signals the importance of peer connection. And then we did have one person put it's all right as the other option. And this really confirms that the institutional resources, particularly financial aid, are directly addressing key student concerns in the Brownsville area. Now, for the second multiple choice question, what motivates you the most as a first generation student? Now, despite the high challenging rate of being a first generation student, these students are exceptionally motivated. Um, the top motivator being a role model for your younger relatives at 32.1%, followed closely by making your family proud at 28.6%, and achieving financial stability at 25%. This overall shows the engine of their success, that it's not just purely personal, but it's deeply rooted in familial aspiration and really the desire to be this sort of beacon for the next generation. Um, the personal meaning, open-ended answers reinforce this, with students seeing their education as a chance to help my parents in the future and make their families proud. This really strong internal drive as a crucial asset, that support programs really should learn to leverage as well. Now, for the first open-ended question, what advice would you give to other first-generation students? There did seem to be a majority of responses that were written towards finding that motivation within themselves and their family. A lot of first-generation students I've been around tend to not realize that the reason they got their education that they have right now is because of their parents, who, despite all having different stories, sacrificed a lot to get their child the right education and in the right path. Now, for the second open-ended question, it kind of dug deeper into what being a first-generation student means to my friends and the other group that I did get to survey. There was a mixed feeling of being thankful, but still keeping in mind that they are at a disadvantage as a first gen. Now, this data confirms that being a first gen is a blessing, and it does come with inevitable challenges. Now, in conclusion, first generation students from Brownsville, Texas do demonstrate remarkable resilience, viewing their education as a vehicle for family uplift. While still facing substantial challenges, their motivation and pride remain fairly high, leading 64.3% total to rate their happiness as a 4 or a 5. Now, to improve this academic journey and close the gaps identified in the study, I would like to offer two recommendations. One being amplifying financial aid and awareness. This means increasing fund for an awareness of first generation specific scholarships, as this seems to be the most valued resources according to the findings of this survey. Second and last recommendation would be to strengthen navigational mentorship. So bolster peer support and mentorship programs to build on the actually existing support system and quote unquote community that students do seem to value according to this study. Thank you.